The Enlightenment's apex space station was, without question, the most ostentatious structure in the known galaxy. Its crystalline spires and gravity-defying architecture weren't just designed to house the Galactic Council of Advanced Species. They were engineered to remind everyone just how impossibly advanced and sophisticated the Council members believed themselves to be. Today marked the centennial gathering of the GCAS, and representatives from across 17 galactic clusters had arrived in their finest bioluminescent ceremonial garments. The grand atrium pulsed with the gentle hum of universal translators and occasional psychic outbursts from dignitaries who hadn't mastered inside thoughts. Ambassador Zixtorb of the Vexillian Empire hovered near the central dais, his translucent jellyfish-like appendages rippling dramatically as he held court with younger diplomats. And then Zixtorb pulsed, his chromatophores flashing theatrically. The Terran simply reached into the fusion reactor with its bare manipulator appendages. "Impossible," chirped a representative from the Silicon Consciousness. "Oh, quite possible when discussing humans," Zixtorb continued. "These creatures could allegedly breathe fire, survive in vacuum without protection, and, this is my favorite part, they could consume any substance for nutrition. Some accounts claim they even ingested dihydrogen monoxide. Voluntarily." A wave of amused trills swept through the gathering. The legendary humans had become the galactic equivalent of campfire stories, bogeymen used to frighten newly sentient species. "Ambassador, with respect," came a soft voice, "my research indicates that humans may have actually existed." The crowd parted to reveal Klee'Pax, a junior diplomat from the Lumidoptera Confederation. Her antennae twitched nervously as all eyes turned toward her. The delicate, moth-like scholar clutched her data crystal tighter. "Ah, young Klee'Pax," Zixtorb's voice sat contracted in laughter. "Always buried in ancient texts. Next you'll tell us the quantum dragons were real too." The gathering erupted in derisive noise. A magnaloid diplomat nearly short-circuited himself laughing. Klee'Pax's wings fluttered in embarrassment. "I've cross-referenced multiple xeno-archaeological findings and—" She never finished her sentence. A piercing alarm klaxon suddenly blared across the station. The elegant holographic chandeliers switched to emergency mode, bathing the atrium in pulsing crimson light. "Attention all beings," the station's AI announced with artificial calm. "Unknown vessels have appeared through an unregistered wormhole. Defensive protocols have been initiated." The central view screen activated, displaying a fleet of strange ships emerging from a spatial anomaly. Unlike the elegant designs favored by GCAS members, these vessels were angular and utilitarian. Their hulls bore peculiar symbols and markings, stylized animals, geometric patterns, and incomprehensible letter combinations. Klee'Pax magnified her vision on one marking. "Is that a smiling marine creature balancing a spheroid on its nasal appendage?" she whispered, referring to what would later be identified as the Miami Dolphins logo. Ambassador Zixtorb's entire body had gone pale. It cannot be. The legends cannot be real. But the evidence was right before them, as the unknown fleet took up formation around the station with military precision. The humans had arrived. The emergency council chamber had never been used for an actual emergency before. Now its sleek, adaptive furnishings morphed anxiously beneath the 57 representatives, all making various noises of distress. "Order! I demand order!" Supreme Councillor Valnor's voice boomed, her crystalline exoskeleton glinting under the emergency lights. "Our sensor arrays have confirmed these vessels possess enough firepower to... She faltered, "to mildly inconvenience us." This did little to calm the assembly. "The Terran menace will consume our young," shrieked a representative from the gas giant collectives. "They'll steal our gravitational technology and use it for entertainment purposes," vibrated another. The communications array chimed with an incoming transmission. The chamber fell into terrified silence. Valnor straightened her ceremonial thought crown. "We are the GCAS. We face extinction with dignity." The view screen revealed not a nightmare creature, but an ordinary-looking bipedal female with dark hair pulled back. She smiled, showing teeth that were hardly the razor fangs of legend. "This is Captain Miranda Chen of the United Earth Trade Vessel Tax Write-Off. We come in peace and would like to discuss potential trading partnerships. Also, sorry about the dramatic entrance. Our navigator swears the wormhole calculations were correct, but between you and me, I think he just wanted to make an impression." The silence that followed was profound. "They're capitalists," someone finally hissed in horror. "The legends are real." Valnor activated the transmission. "This is Supreme Counselor Valnor of the Galactic Council of Advanced Species. We acknowledge your peaceful intentions. A delegation will meet with you momentarily." The screen went dark and chaos resumed. "Who shall we send to meet these humans?" The word itself caused several council members to emit involuntary defense pheromones. All eyes turned toward Klee'Pax. "You," Valnor pointed at the moth-like scholar. "You're the crazy one who believed in them anyway. You lead the welcoming committee." But Klee'Pax's antennae drooped. "I've only studied theoretical human behavior from fragmentary records." "Perfect qualifications," Valnor declared, "and take Drazkor as security," she added, gesturing to the hulking reptilian. "Those humans won't intimidate me," Drazkor growled, activating his ceremonial plasma blade, which promptly shorted out. "I just need to change the power cell," he muttered. In the docking bay, Klee'Pax stood nervously at the front of a reception line. The human shuttle that had landed was a hodgepodge of parts, held together with what appeared to be adhesive tape. The shuttle door opened with a hiss and a puff of coffee-infused air. Captain Miranda Chen stepped out, straightening a uniform that showed signs of practical wear. Her face bore none of the murderous intent the council had feared, just the slightly harried expression of someone with too many responsibilities. "Greetings. Sorry about the wait. Our airlock got finicky after that asteroid belt." She extended a hand, realized the gesture might not translate, and awkwardly converted it to a peace sign. Behind her emerged 4 more humans, including an enormous male who was, improbably, consuming a sandwich. "This is my executive officer, Sergeant Jackson," Chen indicated. "Plush to meet you," he managed around his mouthful, spraying crumbs. No fire breathing, no vacuum survival, not a single raw mineral being consumed, just people. Extraordinarily ordinary people. "I am Klee'Pax of the Lumidoptera Confederation," she managed. "We welcome you to Enlightenment's apex." "Great name," Chen nodded. "Very zen. We just call our stations things like Delta Hub or Tax Shelter 9. No poetry in human bureaucracy, I'm afraid." Drazkor pushed forward. "What is your purpose here? Why have your war vessels surrounded our station?" "War vessels? Oh, no, those are repurposed industrial freighters. We're traders, explorers. We've been mapping the Sagittarius Arm for centuries. Completely different neighborhood from you folks." "You're not here to conquer?" Klee'Pax couldn't help asking. Chen laughed. "Conquer? Good Lord, no. Do you know how much paperwork that would involve? We're just looking for new markets, cultural exchange, maybe some technology trading." Jackson finished his sandwich. "Captain makes it sound boring. Truth is, we're just nosy. Humans are curious by nature." As they moved toward the diplomatic quarters, Drazkor leaned close to Klee'Pax. "They're hiding something. No species is this casual about first contact." Klee'Pax wasn't listening. Her lifetime of research was walking right in front of her, and they were nothing like the legends. They were far more interesting. The grand reception hall had been transformed into a showcase of galactic cuisine and cultural displays. Tonight, however, the reception had a distinctly nervous energy, as dignitaries glanced toward the human delegation with a mixture of curiosity, terror, and disappointment. "They don't even have extra limbs," muttered a disappointed Octavian diplomat. "How do they manage with just 4 appendages? Primitive." Captain Chen and her crew circulated with remarkable ease. The humans exhibited none of the caution that was standard protocol when introducing new species. Most civilizations spent years studying each other's biochemistry before sharing the same atmospheric conditions, let alone consuming each other's food. The humans had not received this memo. "Is this edible?" Lieutenant Patel, the ship's science officer, asked, while pointing at a bowl of writhing, luminescent creatures. For us, yes, but for your species it would cause immediate... Patel popped one in her mouth before the warning was complete. She chewed thoughtfully. Tastes like spicy shrimp. A little tingly. A horrified silence fell over the nearby aliens. Amazing, Klee'Pax whispered, furiously taking notes. You consumed a Rigelian nerve dancer without ill effects. How is this possible? Good immune system. We've got more bacteria than human cells in our bodies. We're basically walking ecosystems. Across the room, Sergeant Jackson wandered over to Ambassador Zixtorb, who was presiding over a crystal decanter filled with iridescent blue liquid. What's that? Jackson asked. Looks fancy. This is Jatak, the sacred essence of the forbidden deeps. For 10,000 cycles, only the most spiritually prepared among us may consume it during ceremonies. It contains toxins that would kill lesser beings. Cool. Can I try some? The gathered Vexillians rippled with shock. It would be unwise, Zixtorb managed. The burning sensation alone would just a taste, Jackson insisted. Cultural exchange, right? Zixtorb poured a thimble-sized portion and presented it with an elaborate gesture. May your transition to the next plane be painless, he added with Vexillian humor. Jackson sniffed the liquid, then took a sip. His eyebrows shot up. Holy shit, this tastes exactly like cheap tequila. Without ceremony, he downed the entire goblet. Got any salt and lime? The Vexillian contingent froze, tendrils rigid with shock. He consumed a full measure, one whispered. Without the 12 prayers of protection, gasped another. The prophecy, Zixtorb pulsed weakly. The poison drinker has arrived. Valnor noticed the commotion and glided over to Captain Chen. Your crew member appears to have triggered some sort of religious experience among the Vexillians. Chen sighed. Jackson found the alcohol, didn't he? We'll cover any religious reparations needed. Meanwhile, Klee'Pax was documenting human behaviors. So humans don't breathe fire? She asked Rodriguez, who was sampling sentient moss. Not technically, though my Uncle Manuel, after eating ghost peppers, comes pretty close. Rodriguez produced a small red bottle. Speaking of which, I brought hot sauce. Everything tastes better with hot sauce. Rodriguez sprinkled the condiment onto her plate. The moss began changing colors rapidly before settling on vibrant purple and emitting a sound like cheerful humming. It appears to be experiencing euphoria, Klee'Pax said in wonder. The capsaicin must be interacting with its neural network. Happens a lot. We gave some to a diplomat on Epsilon Eridani and they appointed us their gods for a week. Had to formally renounce our divinity in triplicate. Across the room, Security Chief Drezkor watched with narrowing reptilian eyes. They're infiltrating us, he muttered to his deputy. See how they're sampling everything, testing weaknesses, and they keep mentioning this coffee substance, probably a code word for their invasion plan. His communit buzzed with a security alert. Unauthorized access to station systems detected in the diplomatic quarters. I knew it, Drezkor hissed, stomping toward the exit. We're going to catch them in the act. The diplomatic quarters were currently the site of what appeared to be a small explosion. Smoke drifted from an open wall panel. Sergeant Jackson sat cross-legged, surrounded by tools that were definitely not standard diplomatic provisions. Come on, you temperamental piece of... he muttered, adjusting something inside. There was a spark, followed by a gurgling sound, and a machine on the countertop began to hum. Success. The door slid open, revealing Drezkor and 4 security officers, all brandishing stun batons. Freeze, human. You are caught in the act of sabotage. Jackson looked up, confused. Sabotage? I'm fixing the coffee machine. Your station's power coupling isn't compatible with our equipment. You expect me to believe you dismantled a security-grade access panel for a beverage? Have you tried going without coffee for 2 days? Trust me, it's a security issue. Captain gets twitchy. As if on cue, the machine dispensed a stream of dark liquid. The aroma filled the room, rich, bitter, and utterly alien to Drezkor's sensory receptors. Drezkor stared, his conspiracy theories momentarily derailed by bewilderment. These humans weren't following any invasion protocol he'd studied. Either they were tactical geniuses operating on a level he couldn't comprehend, or they were exactly what they appeared to be, Bizarre, reckless, and inexplicably obsessed with a bitter, plant-based stimulant. He wasn't sure which possibility frightened him more. The diplomatic reception was entering its fourth hour when the station shook violently. "Attention, all beings," the station AI announced, its artificial calm tinged with panic. "Multiple unidentified objects approaching the station. They are not responding to hails and have disabled our long-range communications array. This is not a drill." The viewscreen showed a swarm of metallic objects converging, angular machines with no apparent cockpits or life support systems. "Sentient machines," gasped a silicon-based diplomat. "Our distant cousins have finally come to overthrow us." Valnor activated the defensive systems. Energy fields of dazzling complexity surrounded the station, designed to repel any threat through advanced mathematics and quantum disruption. The drones flew straight through them without slowing. "Impossible," Valnor's crystalline exoskeleton paled. "Nothing can penetrate a septuple harmonized defensive field." "Those look like Zeth-Tech war drones," Lieutenant Patty observed calmly, sipping fizz wine. "Ancient automated weapons from a civilization that went extinct about 300 years ago." "If you're familiar with these machines," Valnor said slowly, "do you know how to stop them?" Patel winced. "That's the thing about 300-year-old killer robots. They tend not to have conveniently documented off switches." The station shook again as the first drone latched onto the hull. "Evacuation protocols are now in effect." In the shuttle bay, Klee'Pax was helping coordinate evacuations when she noticed Drazkor moving furtively around the human shuttle. "Security override complete," Drazkor muttered. "Engine start sequence disabled, navigation systems corrupted. The humans won't be going anywhere." Klee'Pax gasped, her wings flickering involuntarily. Drazkor's head swiveled, eyes locking onto her hiding place. "Eavesdropping, scholar?" he hissed. "Sabotaging an allied vessel isn't very diplomatic either. What are you doing?" "What's necessary, don't you see? These drones appeared immediately after the humans arrived. It can't be coincidence." "You think the humans activated ancient war machines to attack a station they're currently visiting? That makes no tactical sense." No, the drones must have detected the humans. They're programmed to eliminate threats, and legends say humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. If we delay the humans' departure, the drones will focus on them, giving us time to escape." "You're planning to sacrifice them?" Klee'Pax's compound eyes widened in horror. "It's what?" Captain Chen's voice came from behind them. They turned to find the entire human delegation standing at the shuttle bay entrance. "Captain?" Klee'Pax's wings fluttered in distress. "No need," Chen said, walking toward Drazkor. "I heard enough. You're planning to use us as bait because you think these drones are after humans specifically." Drazkor shifted from furtive to defensive. "You must understand. Our defensive systems are useless against them. The station is doomed unless you throw us to the wolves." "Yeah, I got that part." Chen sighed, then did something unexpected. She smiled. "Lucky for you, we're pretty good with obsolete tech. Look, we deal with ancient systems all the time. Have you seen our printer situation back on Earth? Some of those things are from the 2140s and still running on Windows 12. You want to help?" Drazkor's tail twitched in confusion. "After I attempted to strand you here?" "Oh, we're definitely going to have a strongly worded conversation about that later," Chen assured him. "But right now, those drones are about to breach the main hull, and I'm guessing none of us want to be around when that happens." She turned to her crew. "Patel, what do you know about these drones' command structure? Hierarchical network. They'll have a primary unit coordinating the attack. Take that out, the rest go dormant." "Perfect. Jackson, Rodriguez, get our shuttle operational again. Patel, work with Klee'Pax to identify the primary drone. We're going drone hunting." She glanced at Drazkor. "And you're coming with us. Consider it community service for attempted murder." "I wasn't trying to murder you," he muttered, "just strategically abandon you in a lethal situation." "Semantics," Chen waved dismissively. "Now, are you going to help us save this oversized crystal paperweight you call a station?" As if to emphasize her point, the lights flickered and emergency sirens blared. The drones had breached the outer hull. War drones had breached 3 levels by the time Chen's team reached the security hub. Emergency bulkheads were sealing throughout the station, trapping diplomats and cutting off escape routes. Status report, Chen demanded. The situation is suboptimal, Valnor admitted, her form dulled with stress. The drones have disabled our primary defense grid and are systematically targeting our communication systems. Standard siege from 30 millennia ago, Patel muttered. They're following textbook Zethtic military doctrine. Isolate, incapacitate, eliminate. Aren't you supposed to be traders? Drathkor asked suspiciously. How does a merchant know so much about ancient military tactics? Chen exchanged glances with her crew. Well, she began, our fleet isn't exactly purpose-built for trading. I knew it, Drathkor hissed triumphantly. You are an invasion force. More like a creative recycling project, Chen corrected. Our ships are decommissioned military vessels repurposed for commerce. Turns out warships have excellent cargo capacity once you remove all the weapons systems. Well, most of the weapons systems. Most? Valnor repeated faintly. We kept some for self-defense. Anyway, we may have resources that could help. Jackson, contact the fleet. Tell them to break out the vintage collection. Jackson grinned. About time. Those antiques were gathering dust. 20 minutes later, the vintage collection had been shuttled aboard, a museum exhibit of weaponry and military equipment, if museums stored exhibits in fully functional condition. These aren't artifacts, Drathkor accused, holding up a projectile weapon. These are arms. They're both, Rodriguez explained. Cultural touchstones that happen to still work. We're efficient that way. I don't understand, Valnor said, watching Jackson demonstrate to octopedal aliens how to operate a decorative replica blaster. If you possess military capabilities, why pretend to be simple traders? Because we are simple traders, Chen said. Just traders from a species with a complicated past. The legends about humans being terrifying warriors? Not entirely false, but definitely outdated. We evolved past that stage centuries ago. Then what are we doing now? Klee'Pax asked nervously. Chin smiled. What humans do best, improvising. The next hour was chaos. The drones had breached the main promenade level. What the defenders lacked in military training, they made up for in creativity, particularly the humans. Jackson organized Magnaloid diplomats into a defensive formation, using overturned food carts as barricades. Rodriguez demonstrated to horrified Lumidoptera how to convert kitchen equipment into makeshift flamethrowers. Meanwhile, Chen had commandeered the maintenance control center. You want to reprogram our cleaning robots? A technician asked incredulously. They're designed to polish quantum crystal flooring. Perfect, Chen nodded. So they're already equipped with precision manipulators and environmental sensors. We just need to adjust their targeting parameters. Within minutes, the station's maintenance systems had been converted into a counter-drone force. Klee'Pax found herself in the thick of battle, her flight abilities making her an ideal scout. I've located the primary control unit, she called out. Section 42B, near the Contemplation Gardens. Chen's voice crackled over the comm. Good work, Patel. What's your analysis? Patel had captured a partially disabled drone and was elbow-deep in its systems. I'm accessing its command protocols now. The architecture is... Wait, this can't be right. What is it? Chen asked. Captain, these drones run on a programming language virtually identical to COBOL. COBOL? Jackson barked a laugh as he deflected an energy beam with a serving tray. You've got to be kidding me. What is this COBOL? Valnor asked. Ancient Earth programming language, Chen explained. Practically prehistoric, but still running some of our oldest systems because nobody wants to rewrite the code. Our financial institutions were still using it until the 2008 ES. You mean you can understand these machines? Drathkor asked, his suspicion replaced with hope. Better than that, Patel grinned. I can speak their language, and you know what happens when you try to run a modern software update on a legacy system? Understanding dawned on Chen's face. System crash. Exactly. I just need access to the primary control unit. That's in the most heavily guarded section, Klee'Pax pointed out. We'd need a distraction. Rodriguez, How's that makeshift EMP coming along? Chen asked. Ready, Captain, though it has about a 40% chance of frying every electronic system within 50 meters. Those are better odds than I usually get at poker, Chen nodded. Klee'Pax, can you guide Patel to the control unit while we create a distraction? The moth-like scholar hesitated, her antennae quivering. I can try. That's the human spirit, Chen clapped her shoulder, always willing to try even when success looks impossible. The distraction was spectacular. Jackson and Rodriguez rigged together a makeshift EMP with power cells from the station's gravity stabilizers. The resulting pulse temporarily disabled a cluster of drones. Meanwhile, Chen led a frontal assault with a bizarre assortment of weapons, from the vintage collection to repurposed kitchen implements. Under this cover, Klee'Pax guided Patel through maintenance tunnels toward the primary control unit. I've never done anything like this, she admitted. Scholars of my species typically spend their lives in archives. First time for everything, Patel replied cheerfully. My first year at the academy, I ended up delivering a baby in zero gravity. Turns out we're capable of much more than we think when necessity pushes us. They reached a ventilation shaft overlooking the contemplation gardens, where the primary drone hovered at the center of a defensive formation. There it is, Klee'Pax whispered. How do we get close enough? Patel removed a small disc from her pack. We don't need to. This is a wireless uplink module. We just need line of sight. She positioned the device and input commands at dizzying speed. What exactly are you doing? Klee'Pax asked, fascinated. I'm packaging a corrupt update disguised as a routine maintenance protocol. It's like sending someone a gift box full of glitter. Seems like a good idea until you open it and it gets everywhere. 30 milliseconds to connection, the interface announced. The primary drone suddenly rotated, its sensors sweeping toward their position. It's detected us, Klee'Pax gasped. Too late, Patel hit a final command. Update deployed. For a moment nothing happened. The primary drone oriented toward them, weapons charging with an ominous hum. Then the drones began to twitch. The primary unit froze, its lights flickering erratically. Around it, the defensive formation broke as each drone experienced the same malfunction. One by one they dropped from the air, clattering to the floor like metallic rain. Did we win? Klee'Pax asked tentatively. Lieutenant Patel grinned, packing up her equipment. Human solution to the rescue, never send a modern update to a legacy system. 3 days after the drone incident, the station was operational again. Mostly. Inside, it hummed with excited chatter about humanity. The emergency council chamber had been repurposed for a ceremony that was equal parts gratitude and barely concealed existential crisis. In recognition of your assistance, Supreme Councillor Valnor announced, the Council extends its formal appreciation to Captain Chen and the crew of the tax write-off. She presented an ornate crystalline sculpture. Chen accepted it with solemnity, though slightly concerned about where to put the unwieldy object. We merely did what anyone would do when faced with killer robots, Chen replied modestly. You should see what happens when the Wi-Fi goes down back home. People achieve the impossible just to check their social feeds. Valnor's translator rendered Wi-Fi as invisible knowledge thread, which several mystic species found deeply profound. Nevertheless, your methods were unorthodox but effective. The Council recognized humanity's potential contribution to galactic society, and we are certainly rethinking some of our assumptions about advanced technology. This was diplomatic understatement. The discovery that the supposedly primitive humans possessed technology capable of defeating ancient war machines had caused significant philosophical turmoil among GCAS members. Before we proceed to trade agreements, Valnor added reluctantly, we must address Security Chief Drazkor, whose actions violated multiple protocols. Drazkor stepped forward, his scales dulled with shame. I accept full responsibility for my attempt to delay the human evacuation. By attempting to sacrifice us to killer robots, Jackson clarified helpfully. Valnor's thought crown emitted frequencies of disapproval. The traditional punishment is exile to the contemplation moons for 3 standard cycles. If I may, Chen stepped forward, we'd like to argue for leniency. A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. Look, Chen shrugged. We've all had bad days where we tried to sacrifice someone to killer robots. Well, metaphorically speaking. Your security chief was trying to protect his people. His methods were questionable, but his intentions weren't entirely wrong. Besides, he's seen firsthand what happens when you underestimate humans. Seems like a useful guy to keep around. Valnor nodded. Drazkor will be reassigned as special security liaison to the human delegation to learn from your species directly. Regarding the trade agreements, Valnor continued, our preliminary discussions have been most illuminating. Another understatement. The revelation that humans had solutions to technological problems the GCAS had struggled with for centuries had completely reorganized negotiation priorities. We're happy to help update some of your systems, Chen said. Though Rodriguez tends to get overzealous with upgrades, your cleaning robots might end up with flamethrower attachments. I regret nothing, Rodriguez called out. Those modifications were tactical genius. As the proceedings concluded, Klee'Pax approached Chen with uncharacteristic confidence. Captain, the Council has appointed me as the official human cultural liaison, she announced. I'll be responsible for facilitating understanding between our species. Like being mistaken for fire-breathing vacuum dwellers, Chen smiled. Precisely. I've already begun work on a comprehensive historical text. Klee'Pax displayed the working title, Humans, the Legends That Spilled Coffee on the Navigation Console but Somehow Still Found Us. Chen laughed. I think I like your version better than the old legends. It's more accurate, Klee'Pax said with scholarly precision, and far more interesting. In the station's recreation lounge, Sergeant Jackson had gathered diplomats around a table covered with colorful tokens. The game is called poker, he explained, distributing bottle caps as chips. It's about strategy, probability, and reading your opponents. This is a sacred human ritual? Asked an Octavian diplomat. Absolutely, Jackson nodded solemnly, practiced for centuries by our wisest leaders. Across the room, Rodriguez leaned toward Patel. He's losing on purpose, isn't he? Obviously, Patel replied, watching Jackson make a show of disappointment over another losing hand. Classic Jackson strategy. Build their confidence, make friends, then clean them out in the tournament next week. Outside the viewport, the human trading fleet floated alongside the station. No longer objects of terror, the ships had become symbols of a new relationship. On the bridge of the tax write-off, Captain Chen was having a final conversation with Valnor. I'm still puzzled by your species, Valnor said. You're not the terrifying warriors of legend, and yet in some ways, you're more unsettling. How so? The legends depicted humans as destructive but predictable. You are neither. Valnor's crystalline structure shimmered with amusement. I suspect the galaxy is not prepared for humanity. That's okay, Chen smiled. We're not always prepared for ourselves either, but we muddle through somehow. As Chen prepared to return to her ship, she paused at the airlock. Oh, last thing, she said casually, those stories about humans breathing fire. Yes, Valnor leaned forward despite herself. Ask Jackson about something called tequila shots and party tricks when you get a chance, Chen winked. Some legends have a basis in truth after all.